Now that everybody is seated, we would like to start with today's session. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all those present here. I am Pradnya Abhay Pekam, PGDM student at BSS Foundation, batch of 2022. And it's an immense pleasure to welcome you all here, the students, guests, the panelists, everybody. Now, why have we gathered here? So the 2019 pandemic and the last 2 years have an immense change in the way we see and perceive things, be it the importance of personal hygiene to be able to work from the comforts of one's home. Things changed, the environment changed, and we adapted. This is where I get to the topic for the day, which is disruptive Indian businesses and disruptive business model. What do we understand from this? So, what are disruptions and how the changes are there and how it affects the businesses? And there are some times that there are businesses that make the most out of such changes and come out with glorious feathers. So we'll be dwelling into that topic. Conventional businesses of hundreds of years have affected by such disruptions in the past 25 years, be the advent of internet, the smartphones in 2007, or the AI and metaverse for that matter. The changes were there, and startups use these changes to design their business models and have a competitive edge over conventional elephants. Before going ahead, I would like to introduce our panel. And before the panel, the most important person, and the first and foremost, is the moderator for the day. Now, the moderator, Mr. Sunil Mishra, welcome on board. Now, Mr. Mishra is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore, and he has about 25 years of experience in building businesses over various sectors, be it telecom, BFSI, online startups, and even real estate for that matter. Mr. Mishra is now the current CEO and MD of Trespect India Private Limited and the Chief Strategy Officer at Anurag Group. We are very happy to have you on board, Mr. Mishra, and a very round of applause for him. I can only hope what he brings to the table, and very curious as to how he'll take things further. Next, I would like my fellow mate to introduce the other panelists. We have Shrishti here, who will take further.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shrishti Tiwari, student of PGDM batch 2022. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Mr. Ambarish Datta. Who is an IIM Calcutta alumni and is currently the Managing Director and CEO at Bombay Stock Exchange Institute Limited. He has 28 years of experience and is having an extensive domain knowledge in education, vocational skills, retail, and digital business. He has previously worked with many renowned companies such as Boston Education and Software Technologies, Wings Infotech Limited, Reliance Retail Limited, and BFSI Sector Skill Council of India. Thank you, sir, for joining with us. Now I would like to introduce our next panelist, Mr. Keval Bhanushali. He is also an IIM Calcutta alumni and is currently the co-founder and CEO at One Finance. And he is also working with Marwari Shares and Finance as CEO. He has gained 25 years of experience while working with Religare, Keynote Corporate Service Limited, Narlolia, LKP Security Limited. Thank you, sir, for giving us your precious time. We are eagerly waiting to know more about the finance world. Over to you, Tanishka.
Our next panelist is Mr. Ganapathi. Now, Mr. Ganapathi is an IIT Bombay alumni and JBIMS alumni. He is an entrepreneur in the technology sector and currently the co-founder of TuneM.com. TuneM.com is his website. He has previously worked with amazing companies, Philip, Adico, and we are very curious as to what Sir will tell us about the technology sector. Over to you, Tanishka.
Very good morning to all. I am Tanishka Gude from PGDM batch 2022. With immense pleasure, I introduce the fiery woman, youngest panelist present on the dais, Ms. Namita Narkar. She is the alumni of Asian Business School of Management, Philippines, and has done BE Biomedical from DJ Sangvi College of Engineering. Ms. Namita has worked in this field from 15 plus years with MNCs like Medal Life Science and abroad. Currently, she is selected in the Linked Creator Director Program. This program helps to further her case for health awareness. Ma'am, you are an inspiration and it is a pleasure to have you here. Moving forward, I like to present our next panelist, Mr. Prasheel Pardhe, who, sir, please. Mr. Prasheel Pardhe is a highly experienced HR professional with 20 plus years of MNC HR experience. He is a postgraduate from Nosi Bonji Institute of Management Studies and enriched his education from leading management like ISB and Design Technique at MITS Logan, Boston. He has been working with the top-rated companies like Tata, Birla, Hivite, Reliance, and MindGate. Currently, he is working with Tentor, Chief People Officer. With a round of applause, welcome all our panelists on the dais. Now, I will request Mr. Sunil Mishra to take control of today's panel discussion.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Thanks. So the word control was obviously wrongly used. This is a forum for disruption and disruptive models. So we will talk everything about except control. Good morning, friends, and thanks, Babul sir, for the gracious invitation and assembling a fine panel for discussing this sort of complex sounding topic, but we'll try to deconstruct it, break it into pieces, bring out experiences from our past and try to add some value to you. Guys, disruptions in businesses, disruptive business models, and what does it mean for you? Right? That's the full topic for today. So I'll start off with what does it mean for you, right? Because you guys need value for money, you are the millennials and the Gen Z, So the way I would use it if I was sitting in the audience is to get some learnings for what companies to join in your placement, right? There could be big companies, there could be small, nimble companies. There are no good or bad choices, guys. So while the word elephant was used by the introducer, I take umbrage to that. There are very fast moving companies which are incumbents, which have disrupted themselves, and we'll talk about that more. Google of yesterday we were discussing has become an incumbent today. So what is the startup today will become an incumbent tomorrow. You guys need to understand what type of skills is needed to work in a big company versus a small startup company. Wide, extensive experience versus selective, intensive learning. There are pros and cons for all of this. So try to pick up some tips there. This may also help you in your first to 5 years of working. What type of things go in your founder's head, whether it be a large incumbent or a small startup. And as one of our colleagues, Prasheel, mentioned, worst come worst, you can pick up some tips for your interviews when you come for your placements from this sort of talk. And that will be sort of real paisa vasool for you guys. So do that. My personal prescriptive tip, and I'm sorry for this always, is please fish out your mobile phones, take out notes in Apple and the equivalent in Android. Try to take 5 or 6 points home today. If that's done, then you are home here. So that's the instructions for students, as Babul sir had instructed me to deliver that. Since I've got a mic, an unfair advantage, I'll start off with giving a soft background of the topic, if you guys are okay. And then the way we have structured it is, I've just scribbled 5-6 areas of discussion. I'll be throwing the area open, and 2 or 3 or 4 of the wise panelists will chip in for each topic. Just taking a step back on the topic, it was introduced pretty brilliantly by the first speaker today, the introducer, the MBA student, which gave about a 100-year expanse of history, and I love big history in businesses. So right from industrial revolutions in 1850s to the advent of electricity in early 1900s or late 1800s, and then electronics in 1950. These are three big defining moments in the last 200 years of industry, where assembly line started and electricity gave way to electronics. But what has happened in the last 25 years is a reinvention of a spate of sort of innovations, which has really laid or become catalyst for disruption. And she spoke about the internet in 1995, WWW, the smartphone in 2007, the big data and AI/ML. So as the computing power increased, big data was always there, mathematics and regression. You have learned your Levin and correlation, etc. But when you add the power of computing to that, what happened in the last 10, 15 years, big data started giving way to AI/ML models, etc. And finally, Jio happened in India. So God bless them. The cheap data was the fourth sort of catalyst. So these four sort of catalysts, and I'm sort of simplifying things a bit, acted as disruptions not to only companies, but to business sectors and models themselves. And I'll speak about that a bit in the next 2-3 minutes before I open up the discussion. So examples are music industry. If any one of you follow, and I'm sure all of you follow Spotify and Ghana and Apple Music, but this was not the way music was delivered 30 years back. It was LP, long playing records, which gave way to cassettes, which gave way to CDs, which gave way to MP3. And when I got my MP3 player, I thought I was the king, and suddenly it's streaming music now. So the way music has been delivered has disrupted the industry many times, and there have been multiple ramifications. We are just the recipients. There are copyrights, the whole way copyrights are played is completely changed. Taylor Swift is re-singing all her songs because her copyrights belongs to Scooter early on. And she's the new songs are again coming on Apple Music. So the way music industry has got disrupted is a classic example if you want to follow some industry to see how disruptions have happened there. Similarly, content and media, right, from theaters to television to OTT. OTT has redefined everything now. So all your Netflixes and Amazon Prime PhDs that you guys are doing in your sort of weekends is because of that. So these are a few industries, and I'm just talking about, I'm trying to define disruptions a bit before I lay it open. And when you come to consumer internet, and this is my last 2 minutes before one of these guys whacks me, hey, don't go berserk. Consumer internet, and I like defining it for MBAs, and I take some creative licenses with the permission of all the wise gentlemen here. There are 8 to 9 sub-verticals which have sort of sprung up in the last 10-15 years, largely along delivering services through internet, but even redefining industries, and I'll talk about that. So transport tech, Uber, Ola; travel tech, Make My Trip, Yatra, Goibibo; food tech, Swiggy, Zomato, Food Panda. The 3 big ones, which are e-commerce, social media, WhatsApp, right? Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal for e-commerce, Facebook, WhatsApp, Insta for social, and I think WhatsApp and Insta possibly for messaging. There is real estate tech, Magic Bricks, 99 Acres, etc. So these are the verticals. Health tech, we've got Namita here from that sort of industry, and fintech. We've got 2 gentlemen here who work on the fintech pieces, which is peer-to-peer lending, Zerodha for all its sort of innovation and possibly lack of digital stuff, but has disrupted the stockbroking industry. And InsurTech, Renew-Buy, Turtlemint. So all these names that I'm throwing, if some of them stick to you, go and Google these names down. These are prime examples of how they have disrupted the industry. Forget disrupting the monopoly incumbents there. So that's a rough expanse, and this could be like a 250-year discussion, or it could be specific industry discussions. But that's the canvas on which disruptions could play. So with that, with your permission, if you might get in, and I'll sort of, I've done my talking for the day. So I'll bring in the wiser guys into the discussion now. I'll start off with sort of a soft opening point from each one of you, and then possibly we can go in order. Roughly the area of discussion I wanted to have with you is that what all are your experiences on disruption or disruptive models, specifically in your sector, if you may, since each one of you has worked in specific sectors. If you can start off with that, Namita, possibly starting off with you and going in this order. No, it's not working. Yeah, this one is.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you to Babul sir for inviting us for this panel. It's actually a privilege to be here. I was just telling Mr. Prasheel when she was doing the introductions that this reminds me of my college days. And I remember the jitters we would have when we would be introducing the guests. And thank you, Sunil, for really wonderfully setting the context. I think he's really told you very well from how we could simplify this topic, which may look very complex, you know, at the face of it. But there is some, I'm sure all of us here together can definitely give you something which you could really take away and make it a good Saturday morning for you. Now, coming to disruption, you know, if you really look up for the meaning of the word disruption, if you do a dictionary search, what does disruption mean in a business parlance? In a regular words, it means the division of something. But in business parlance, disruption means to bring about a radical change. A radical change could be in any industry, through a product, through your business strategy, or anything. So any radical change that you're talking about is roughly defined as disruption. If you similarly look up for the definition of business model, what does it mean? It's basically a plan by which a company plans to operate itself. Okay, so that means looking into the details of revenue sources, looking into the details of customer segments, getting into the details of financing. So in short, it refers to a plan of how you're going to make money. And I'm going to ask them to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how a business model is. At the end of the day, you want to be there as a business, and what would it mean to you? Now, if you combine those two words, disruption and business model, you get a disruptive business model. You could bring about a disruption at multiple levels. And I am talking by my experiences of this industry. You could bring about a disruption through a breakthrough product. You could bring about a disruption through a breakthrough distribution channel. You could bring out a disruption through a breakthrough pricing strategy, or by addressing a customer segment which probably your competitors have not thought of, or addressing a geography your competitors have not thought of. And I'm telling you this basis what we did in my previous stints. And I'll quote us a few examples in time to come. So that is how you would bring. So the point I'm trying to set a context is, you know, disruption can be thought of at various levels and not just in a one particular manner. Now, I am currently working with a company called Rivara Labs, which is an Indian startup in molecular diagnostics. What molecular diagnostics is everyone has heard of RT-PCR, thanks to this COVID pandemic. And RT-PCR has now become a household name. People think about it that the test is RT-PCR, but it's not like that. RT-PCR is just a platform on which we do a lot more tests. But what molecular diagnostics is, any testing done at a genetic level and not at a routine biochemistry level where you do your CBC hemoglobin. That's not that. Now, Rivara Labs, we have entered into this space with an aim to disrupt MDX, which is molecular diagnostics. Now, why that? We do have players like Suburban, Lal Path Lab, Metropolis, who have a dedicated biochemistry division, but a not so dedicated, I would say, MDX vertical. They do have, but we are trying to have our own space in this space alone where nobody's there. Now, if I had to summarize in one line that how Rivara is trying to disrupt this place or trying to transform this places, our one-line summary of our business model can be brought down to that we are trying to get closer to the patients. This is my one-line summary of business model. What do I mean by that? If I look at some of these large players in MDX, they have these labs associated in, or maybe placed only in 4 corners of the country, 4 metro cities. Whereas we want to get closer to the patient. And why is the key success factor of our industry, in my industry diagnostics, is a shorter TAT, a shorter turnaround time. If I can deliver results faster, I have cracked it. So this is just one example. I will be talking about it much more, but that is how I summarized, the crux of the Rivara model is, we want to get closer to this. So the disruption that we are trying to bring about is, we want to get closer in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. We already have a labs in 12 cities. Maybe in another 4 months' time, we are going to get to another tier 3 cities. The how part of it is different. How we did it, we partnered with a lot of hospitals, how we got our infra there, that's a completely different story. But that is the disruption that we try to bring about. Now, multiple examples I can give, like Mankind or J&J. They've done some great work in their spaces by attacking a different geography altogether. And that's the key point, if I really want to drive here today, is that think about that disruption comes at multiple levels, and what is it that somebody else is not paying attention to, what you could do, is where disruption probably could have an origin. That's from me as a beginner.
Great start, Namita. Thanks. Ganapathi, you want to carry on from there?
Good morning. It's wonderful to see so many smiling faces early in the morning. It's not a lecture, so they are all happy. Every progress that's happened in this world is because of an unreasonable person. Who else but George Bernard Shaw? So when people become unreasonable, they stretch their expectations, they push you, that's when disruptions mostly happen. Disruptions happen when there is an idea whose life has come and the idea is put to practice. Disruptions happen when you have to change behavior. So if you see most of this innovation, you would have seen a change in behavior, how people were doing certain things with a certain way have changed doing things. Okay. So I have a friend who used to watch the movies first day, first show, every time. He still does it. He has a list on OTT when it releases on Amazon and Netflix, and he goes and sits at that time to watch first day, first show. So the behavior, the change in behavior has come in because of certain things that have happened, which Sunil sir has already explained in terms of the innovations. Now, does change in technology bring in innovation? Or because there is, to do innovation, you have to use technology. That's what we were debating with Keval also. So is business model coming first? Or because now everybody talks of technology because of that, because you are exposed to Flipkarts and Zomatos and Uber and all. So I come from the learning and development industry. I was a trainer and coach earlier. I'm still a trainer and coach, but in the digital format. So I make learning management system. So what has changed in the learning management system also? The way the content is consumed has changed, okay? So there were formats which were very lengthy, e-learning, people had to sit for hours. And if I were to tell you for hours, you read this and then assessments, today it's all bite-sized learning. So everybody had to really shift to bite-size and micro-learning. So the way the content got consumed, so people had invested so much. Now they have to repurpose, curate the content. Probably you learn more from YouTube videos, or now people are able to convey even in a 3-minute reel or 2-minute reel, whatever they want to. 3 investment tips, okay, done. Vegan diet, 3. Okay, I mean, by the time you finish saying broccoli, I mean, that reel is over. But then you are able to convey in a short span of time. But then in the 10-minute, you have consumed so many reels that you have learned. So the whole process of learning, so learning management systems have to adapt to it. Now recently, in the pharma industry, in the FMCG industry, there's something called on-the-job coaching. That means the supervisor, he accompanies a sales executive on the field. He observes how he's talking to the retailer. Is he greeting him, asking the right questions and all. And at the end gives a feedback. You did this right, this you have to improve and all. This is a physical activity. So when pandemic came, there were no visits. So how do these people practice? So there was a virtual OJT created. People used to record videos and send it. I said, this is something like a TikTok here. Like you have a script, you record a video, you send it, somebody reviews it and gives you a feedback. So what is happening is learning in enterprise, the expectation is what is happening in the learning in consumer apps. So every new, employee who's in the organization, especially in your generation Z, is expecting what is happening in the consumer industry to also come to enterprise. So that is why you see apps. Soon people get tired of apps. I call it app apathy, like having too many apps and you get tired which one to use. There must be an app to govern these apps. So there are brilliant models happening around aggregation. So you cannot cover the whole thing. So aggregation is happening in every industry, whether it's the consumer sector or even infra material, everything. It's all about aggregation. That's something which maybe I'll talk about later on, even in the content industry, how aggregation is happening and how LMSs are changing into learning experience management, that you can't own all the content, but you see that the users have an experience. So I just want to stop here, and so a lot of action, it is endless and it will keep going on, and maybe tomorrow you'll just speak into mobile and it will throw you the content you want to watch, okay, and it will track what you have watched. I don't know, retina, I don't know what. Okay, thank you so much.
Super, Ganapathi, great intro to the topic. Keval?
Should I be like?
Please, Keval.
Yeah, hi. Morning, everyone. I'll just take probably 2 minutes, and that's where I've got a call as well. So I'll have to stop the vibrations, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so, I have had a chance to work with great companies pretty early in my life. Was fortunate enough to learn from great people who wanted to make the surrounding and the new batches around them better. Having said that, I would only mention one word, when it comes to disruption. I don't consider it as disruption. I don't think so that in business there is anything like disrupting per se, right? It's only evolution, and that stems out from a very basic human need. We evolve irrespective of, we evolve in terms of education, we evolve in terms of attires, we evolve in terms of what we read, how we look, everything, right? So we just want to get better at whatever we are doing. So the same thing applies to business. Any business model that you try to come up with, if it is not backed by an intent of bettering the experience for its users or consumer or the industry itself, I have not seen any business sustaining or thriving who has just entered to, disrupt, because there is a very thin line between disruption and destructions, right? So just by doing things unnecessarily differently, without even understanding whether they are needed, they are not needed, whether it is an open need or whether it is an latent need of an user. These are things which are to be considered before jumping into any kind of conclusions. And just to throw out a number there, since 2016 till 22, 70,000 plus startups have registered in Startup India campaign, right? And just 100 of them have become unicorns. So while it may seem pretty easy and rosy, it ain't, okay? And if you dive deep into those 100 startups, you will figure out that 30 of them, like it's all those 30 people who somewhere down the line have been instrumental in building all 100 of them, right? Either someone has worked with them and all those stuff. So you can take an example for someone like Peter Thiel, right? The first batch and the people that have worked with him, they've all gone out to create great companies like YouTube, LinkedIn, Tesla, all of it, right? So it's not by chance. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it's not by chance. You might feel that, okay, there is a process to do it, and that process is really tough. So it has to be backed by one basic thing, that is to better the overall experience for the user, better the industry, better the quality of life for people in and around you. Then any kind of disruption will make sense and it will sustain. Otherwise, you'll just keep on running or trying to push a wall. So that's it for now. I think that's my definition of disruption.
Great start, Keval. Pretty different sort of way to look at it. Ambarish, you want to pick up from there? And
Yeah. Thank you, Sunil, and thank you, Babul sir, for calling all of us here. So I think the way I look at it is that, as rightly said, I think disruption is primarily to make things stronger, better, and faster. And until and unless it probably improves what you already do, you know, in one of these three things, it probably doesn't qualify as a disruption. We see disruption obviously from a very myopic lens of a user or a consumer, and we believe that that is how a disruption happens. You know, I would want to believe that disruptions are usually driven by innovation at the back end, and you know, innovation is not something which is very easy to do. If you see most of the innovation which you actually use now are outcomes of multiple years of effort on looking at how users look at the problem, how users use a device and stuff like that. Take just the example of a computer mouse. A lot of you probably might have seen that in your school days, but mouse was a very important element of a hardware device, and it took one innovator to believe that the mouse could be replaced with finger and the technology could be built where the mouse could be made redundant. Now these are radical disruptions which have happened, and of course once that happened, it opened up a completely new you know, range of products, solutions, and stuff like that. So I work for the stock exchange, and I want to give you two examples. The Bombay Stock Exchange is just 148 years old. We're the oldest exchange in Asia and probably the second oldest in the world. We are older than any other you know, running public institution in the country, including the oldest national party. So for an entity like that to have survived so many years without innovation could have been impossible. But from being a brick and mortar stock exchange, we very quietly morphed into a tech company for probably last about 15, 20 years. And today, on a good day, we do about 4 million transactions, and we do it at an average speed of about 6 microseconds. 6 microseconds, by the way, is extremely fast. It's a millionth of a second. If you're very good, you can blink 3 times in a second. To give you a comparison, if we had a flying license, I could have taken you all to Mars and brought you back the same day. So that's the speed we are talking about. However, this is not the end of the world. We believe that computing will become a pico of a second, which is a millionth of a micro, where in another 4 or 5 years, we'll be able to do transaction at a picosecond speed. Now, all of this is obviously possible because there's some innovation happening either in technology, hardware, software, or the way we do things. The other hat which I wear is of an ed tech, where we deal with students and we offer courses. And I think, like rightly said by my panelist, that I think there's a huge change on the way we consume content and we want to learn. But there are 3 factors which I want to indicate, which I believe are the core disruptors. First is learner attention span is so narrow and so low that as we are talking to you, actually your mind is far wide and away. Some of you are probably walking through gardens, some of you are probably thinking about the holidays you want to enjoy, some of you are probably thinking about the movie that you will go and watch tomorrow. So attention span is very, very difficult, and you know, as someone who wants to deliver learning to you, if I can't hold your attention in the first 10 seconds, you know, we lose you. The second, of course, is you no longer now want to do learning which are very large and wide. You want to consume learning in small bites which are easy for you to not just learn, but also to reflect. And you want quick fix, so you want to learn small bites of things. So I want to teach you how to buy 5 stocks, and I can do it in 10 minutes. And you want to learn that, reflect, go back and actually buy those 10 stocks, see if it works, and then come back. So if it doesn't work, actually you won't come back. You'll actually then start looking at something else. So you want that to be quick. The third is credentials no longer matter. It doesn't matter whether you're studying in Bombay University or you're studying anywhere else. What matters is, are you learning something which adds value, and can you create wealth or create a better way of life for yourself? So a certificate now has actually 0 value, and very soon you'll probably have digital universities who won't issue you any certificate. And this is not going to be very far. Just as we speak today, MIT runs a master level program where there's no intake criteria. You don't need to be a graduate, you don't need to be even a school pass out. You can be anyone who's never been to school. It has a pre-learning, you do that for a year, you take a term and exam, and if you get through, you can do a one-year program in the MIT campus and finish with a master's in developmental economics. And believe you me, this course is run by 3 professors, out of which 2 got Nobel Prize in economics, and the 3rd one was a co-researcher. So this is what top-end universities are going to do, and that's how universities will probably change. So edtechs now have a big challenge of coping up with this. You know, how do we deliver quality? How do we make sure that it adds value? And how is it delivered in small chunks and quantity, which allows you to consume them quickly, go back and reflect, apply it, and then if it finds interesting, come back and do it. In terms of disruption, I want to give you a few other examples on how technology is doing it, but I think we'll take that up in the next session. Yes, over to you.
Super, Ambarish. Interesting, exciting, and scary. A bit of that. These guys are going to get degrees very soon.
Right. I'm actually telling them that they're of no value to you. Sorry.
Great. Prasheel, sorry, you want to? No, Sheila. Take Ambarish mic.
Sir, it took me 5 years to get into MIT here. I actually did 32 applications for it. A very basic question. Why are you all here? 5 people tell me the answer, why you're sitting here. There is too much of gyan and probably more than roughly 100 years of experience sitting in front of you. But I really need to know, why are you all here? 5 people, some of you all. Tell me. Thoughts about industry? So whilst you are answering, now you are thinking. Okay, good. So you're here to watch us and how we think. Somebody else put up their hand. So you need to know what our experience is. Okay, good. Good. You're clear you want to make money, right? Okay. Who's the panel who's going to help you to make money? Sir? Okay. After you finish, he's your best friend.
Can I add a disclaimer?
Yeah.
I can't give you any stock tips. I'm extremely sorry. That Keval can give you on what to buy on Monday morning. Markets will be up. That's all I will tell you.
But the choice is what he is going to make with you. Best of luck. If that's disruption, let me know how you do it with him. Third. 3 people done. 2 more people. Yes, ma'am. What do you think? Why are you here? Why are you sitting here? तो हमारा experience आपको important है. Correct. Good. Anybody else? Somebody was introducing us. Pradnya, I think so her name is. Right? Yeah, you are. Come. Why are you here? To learn. Learn what? Okay. It's an honor. So, sir, did you know which industry Namita is from? No. Sir is from? Ganesh sir is from? Good. Do you know which industry? Which? Fintech. Which industry sir is from? Okay. There are disruptions and there are examples we can talk about in our experience. As long as you're true to your goal, funda clear hai, dhanda hoga. Simple. Do not wade away. I guess the disruption here is what we are doing is we were trying to tell you what our experience is, okay, in our respective businesses. Whether it's learning, you learn in bites, whether it's business that we are going to do, financial business, and how the trends are happening. There are trends which you will consume. The most important part in disruption which starts, who are you and what do you want? Unless and until you're not clear with that. Alexander bought disruption and so did Steve Jobs. And so did Gates, and so did Vedanta, and so did Reliance. The people who bought the change were the people who were true to their cause. They wanted something. As long as you don't want that one particular stuff, we can rant. That's not going to make sense to you. What is really going to make sense to you is somebody of our people who are talking in terms of experience, which is going to make sense. So as my colleague said over here, you have to write down some things. Before you write down something, you should know what do you want. If you want it for your interview, if you want to make connects, if you want to see to it that your interview happens, or some experience future 4 years down the line, good. Be clear on at least 3 topics that you want from any activity you do. Get yourself in order first. We are good in what we have done. As Namita said 10 years ago, some few years ago, even I used to sit over there. I was not clear what I wanted, but I had butterflies in my stomach. I could not even stand over there. I was good in my vociferous behaviors. Okay, I could stand and I could speak. But the one thing that was I was scared of, though I knew my data well, I could not even have eye contact with the people sitting right across. I was good. I didn't know I was good. It took me few years to realize that I was really good at what I was doing. And that's the place where disruption started happening in my life. My focus was, you need to have your focus and you need to have your fundas clear. When I say funda, 3 things. Don't solve the world. There are prime ministers and there are ministers and there are presidents to solve the world. Solve one problem at a time. That's more than enough for you to start your disruption journey. What we are speaking over here is easily available on YouTube. What you need to ask us is not available on YouTube. If you want to make the best of us, be clear and ask and open your mouth. We will be able to narrate that. Clear? Our logic is clear now? Fundamentals are clear? If you need to ask 2 or 3 questions, write them down in your mind. What I want and what I want from this discussion. We'll have a more productive part. The reason why I'm asking you this is because I was not clear then. And it is fine. That's the way life is. You need to get your first job. You need to, you got your degree in place. But you're in a very unsimulated environment at this point of time. You are wanting to hear about disruption, but there are far too many disruptors out in the market that are going to affect you. So if the disruption is happening in the market, the only thing that is constant is who you are. Get it right first, then move ahead. I think so that would be better. Ground stage done? Good. Now we will talk about our experience, but you have to engage with us. Sir, I thought I was...
Fantastic, Prasheel. You promised me that you may disrupt the panel, and you're almost there on a lighter note. But great, first 24 minutes chat. I'll get 1 or 2 minutes to summarize everything so that you guys can get it in bullet points. And I'm making notes, by the way. I'm not doing WhatsApp, is it? So Namita started off with a very simple sort of a key from Rivara, like the TAT. Shorter TAT is what they are trying to use to disrupt and getting close to the customer, possibly through geography. Ganapathi sir spoke about unreasonable person being at the core of disruption and the bite-sized learning in L&D, which changed everything. He jocularly spoke about TikTok being the new sort of mode of that, but that's pretty serious, and that's sort of changing everyone. Keval had a different sort of a take on disruption being evolution, right, and steps in evolution happening, but it has to better the consumer experience. That is the core. Otherwise, it's not really disruption. Don't do it for the sake of being different. Like that's pretty. These are great nuggets, guys. If you can just sort of summarize some of them: 70,000 startups, 100 unicorns, 30 guys common to those 100 unicorns. Like amazing stats. And then Ambarish sir obviously added to that sort of. That innovation driven from back end many times. That's a pretty serious. There's a lot of sexy stuff and glamorous stuff happens in the front. The consumer internet front end is a different world, but the silent heroes behind, the back end guys are doing most of the innovation. Salesforce is a CRM which is changing the way things are done. And then he spoke about the micro and the pico sort of revolution. Of course, nano was in between possibly. The low attention spans of people, credentials don't matter. These are things which are changing the stuff. And finally, Prasheel obviously started talking about authenticity, right? I'm just sort of summarizing using a word there, the who are you and what is core to you, understand that. I started thinking about it myself. So thanks for shaking us up a bit there. But this is pretty at a philosophical level, that why do you want innovation? Like, are you doing it for the sake of doing it, like Keval said, or do you want to change the consumer experience? Do you want to change the world and solve one problem at a time? Prasheel also said, hey, like, don't try to become a Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk rolled into one. Finally, Adani is number 2 guy, so no one knew about him 5 years back. So pretty wide expanse of topics. Thanks for that. We'll change tack a bit. It's 30 minutes already, so we'll spend about, I think, 10 minutes on the next 2-3 topics so that we do justice to your time. We've spoken a lot about startups. It's great fun, right, to start some company. And Steve Jobs took Steve Ballmer out of Stanford and built Microsoft. बहुत मजा है उसमें. But I want to spend 5-10 minutes with your permission on what's going on in incumbents' mind. है ना? HDFC Securities के mind में क्या चल रहा है? As Keval was speaking, when 100 P2P lending startups are coming, insurtech startups coming, उन लोग के mind में क्या चल रहा है? बुद्धू तो है नहीं कोई, है ना? सब everyone is a $100 billion company or a $50 billion company. They have got 50 people thinking on there. So I want to talk about incumbents, how would incumbents sort of, how are incumbents reacting to this, or if you are an incumbent CEO, what would you be thinking when you see these nimble startups coming from college and sort of attacking your turf? So again, if I may invite 2 or 3 of you, Ambarish, followed by Keval, followed by Prasheel, 3 of you, if you could just chip in a couple of minutes each on this topic, Ambarish.
Right, thank you. So I think, there are 2-3 things what probably happens between an incumbent and a new player. Firstly, I think the way I see it, as you become older, innovation life cycles becomes very, very difficult to do. Large organizations, innovation is not easy to do. They kind of get into silos, frames, structures, and all of us work for reasonably mid-sized companies where, you realize that as leaders, it is very, very difficult to do that. So, having said that, it is also true, I don't know how many of you know, that first mover advantage actually does not work. If you see most of the successful startups, most of them are not first mover advantage guys. They are guys who have probably were doing something else, they watched someone else to get into the market, they saw them failing, they learned from it, they pivoted themselves and then went back. So it's not really that unless you're the first guy in that market, you will succeed. This is true in many industries. The first guys who made aeroplane was not Airbus or Boeing. the first guys who made the computer was not the Dell and the others, and there were other players who went there first. So I think that's the first thing to establish. The second is for any established player to see someone come to the market, I think the first thing one usually does is to kind of remove the hype from the reality. So you would realize that time and again you'll hear new technologies, new thing coming in. For example, machine language has been around for a very long time. I mean, Ganapathi ji went to IIT, and I'm sure you guys were talking about this way back about machine language in many years back.
You see his PhD in 1988. It's on machine learning.
Right, absolutely.
So he runs a company in AI today, but the word was prevalent. I mean, those days.
Correct. So
IBM was fighting it through in 1945 or 1950s.
Yeah. I mean, Deep Blue, for example. Do you guys know this about story that IBM wrote? You know about the Watson technology which IBM uses? Have you heard about this? Okay, so IBM's most popular, AI ML tool is this general called Watson. But the first actual application of Watson was, the contest between Karpov and IBM machine for playing a chess round, which the grandmaster unfortunately lost. And there was a rematch of the machine and Karpov again, which he again lost. And then he blamed the software and the tool and the hardware, and he said it's because of them that he. That's a Deep Blue, right? So these technologies have been around for a while. So I think one of the things which any established company does is to kind of take a very finite call on what is the hype and what is reality. So sometimes this hype curve can sound very disruptive, but it's actually not. And all of us have gone through this life cycle. We've heard a lot of interesting keywords, but they've turned out to be dud. I think the trick is to kind of figure out what it is and what it is not, and is actually to wait for a while and see how it shapes up. There is no written formula about how do you tackle incumbent. Incumbent usually keeps you on your toes, and it always kind of drives you to keep thinking, how do you reinvent? I want to share how I look at it. So, our education business was very formal. It was classroom-led and all that stuff. And technology was around for a very long time. We were using technology to deliver training, but in different form. Thankfully, the COVID has fast-tracked us by at least about two generations ahead, where because of use of technology, adoption of it, we've kind of completely moved forward. But the way I see this is you need to run two legs. One is to run your day-to-day operation, but it's also to keep another leg on innovation and keep doing small experiments and keep trying about it. It's not about making some path-breaking discovery about something and that is called disruption. No, it's also about making small incremental inventions and changes in processes and your way of doing life, and then moving it forward and slowly kind of going through it. So it's not a very big bang approach. It can also be very small, disruptive. And I want to give you another example. A very common example which probably none of you have thought about. Look at the toothbrush and toothpaste we all use. Now, do you share your toothbrush? No. But do you share your toothpaste? You do. Now, what happens usually when we go for brushing our teeth, you find your toothbrush and you don't find the paste because someone else has taken it away, right? And then when you find it, what do you figure out? There's no paste in it. So what do? You keep looking for someone else to give you a paste. Now, have you thought whether can you fix this problem? This is a problem all of you face, right? All of us face as well. How about creating a toothbrush where it's like this, where the brush is on the top and you have a removable canister on the bottom which has a paste. So every time you change, you have your own paste and you stick it around and you carry it with it. Don't you think this can be a solution? Have you ever seen a product like this on the shelves? Does it need very high level of intelligence to design something like this? No, but none of us have thought about it. By the way, if you go back and check patents, there are at least 110 patents on this product available right now. And you can actually design one and you can claim that patent and you can start manufacturing and probably sell and make lots of money. So it's not about making big bang discovery, it's also about finding solutions to smaller problems in life, right? How do you use them? And that probably matters more when you are trying to deal with incumbents and probably when you run a established business.
Super, Ambarish. Keval, you have been on both sides. You have got an incumbent and a sort of a startup fintech now. So from the incumbent side, how do you guys look at who's going to attack you next, and what are you preparing for?
Yeah, so I mean, I would just want to touch upon one very basic thing while we run separate companies and why we run separate companies, right? We could have just had a product by so and so instead of making it a separate company and going through all the hassles and everything, because it's not about leveraging the back-end costs that we have. And this mistake I have personally done in my past organizations, where I thought that let me leverage on the cost benefit of back-ends and operations and just change the front part of it, and a naya product launch kar denge and then it will be fine. You will be shocked and surprised that none of those strategies work. They are excellent on PPTs and of course excellent in terms of discussions as a strategy note, but they don't really work because ultimately customer is not a fool. Till the time we keep on believing that कि मैं मुखड़ा change कर दूंगा अंतरा वही रहेगा, people understand that you are an Anu Malik or a Preetham of a sort. You're not getting Grammy for that for sure, right? So when you talk about incumbent or you talk about a startup, we generally equate it to age, right? We think that an old company is an incumbent, a company that has been into existence for 25, 30 years is an incumbent, and a startup is someone who is specifically new. There's a very, of course it's wrong, that's not true. Best of the innovations, I don't know how many of you know here that Microsoft or Apple, they have been existing for more than 4 decades now. Right, you talk about Twitter, you talk about Amazons, everybody, like, they are in their 30s right now, and they are disrupting while we talk. AWS has technically disrupted a lot of IT infrastructure. I'm sure sir would add to it. So of course, in terms of technology also, I'll ask him rather to whatever limited knowledge I have in terms of doing business. So there is a very structural difference the way we run an existing organization, which is a 3-decade or a 4-decade-year-old, versus the way we build a new organization. And it starts at such a base level that here we have something called as KRA, KPIs. Here we have only OKRs, right? So a very basic difference, I'll tell you what it is. ये दोनों में कोई भी age का, technology का, पैसे का, funding का, कोई फर्क नहीं है. I mean, we have done these mistakes like out and out so many times, and we can very well define it, that the difference is in mindset, the way you take calls. That's the difference, right? In an incumbent setup, you will have to think about the repercussions of every decision that you make, because there is already so much at stake, right? So Samsung today is an investor in more than 150 companies, right? Do you think that they didn't have bandwidth enough to hire people within Samsung to build the same kind of products, right? Adobe acquired Figma yesterday, right? $20 billion. That's probably, Adobe's sales is somewhere around $14 billion, and Figma is $400 million, right? So they have technically paid 11% of Adobe's market cap for a 2.8% of sales, right? So are they really stupid, right? No. Like he just mentioned, सब लोग ज्ञानी हैं, सबके पास बहुत दिमाग है, पैसा भी है, तो करना जानते हैं. But it's a mindset. What I'm coming at, that it is a mindset that why Figma will continue to run as an independent entity. I don't know if you guys have seen through the details. All these companies, right? Reliance acquired so many companies. I don't know how many of you know here that the brands starting from Armani Exchange to Steve Madden to all the great brands in India, they are all owned by Reliance Retail right now, as we speak. So they are not stupid to let it run independently, and सबका design मुकेश अंबानी खुद करने नहीं बैठते कि अच्छा ठीक है ऐसे होगा, सबके अलग अलग CEOs हैं, अलग अलग चीज़ें, because it's a mindset. Point I'm making that it is a mindset. KRA, KPI or an incumbent works on a very simple format. मैंने मेरा काम कर दिया भाई, अब आगे वाला देखे. It's like an assembly belt. Okay, so one department is like, okay, I have done my job. Now it is up to the second one. General Motors की गाड़ियों और Ferrari की गाड़ियों में क्या फ़र्क है पता है? Yeah, for that matter, even if you want to buy a Rolls-Royce Phantom or any car, it takes on an average 2 years to get a car, right? After you design out the specification. The basic difference is कि General Motor की गाड़ियाँ एक assembly line पे बनती हैं, एक robot एक काम करता है, वो बहुत पहले robotic हो चुके हैं ये processes, and they pass it on आगे. The other setup of OKR is I will see it through. Okay, so when I'm talking about our company, One Finance, we have a simple policy that is called KRP, a key responsible person for any job that is to be done. The entire organization functions on only one goal. सबका टारगेट वही है. KRA KPI सेटअप में क्या होता है, सबके अलग अलग टारगेट है कि भाई तेरा काम है ये कर लेना. If you are into KYC, your job is blah blah blah. If you are into sales, your job is blah blah blah. प्रोडक्ट में है तो तेरा काम है ये सब, ये इतने डॉक्यूमेंट करना, प्रोसेस फॉलो करना. इन स्टार्टअप्स ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. तुमने अपना काम कितना भी अच्छा कर लिया हो, लेकिन अगर जो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव जो कंपनी का है, इफ एन OKR इज नॉट अचीव्ड, इट्स नॉट वर्थ इट. सो सी योर जॉब थ्रू इज अ माइंडसेट, एंड doing your job honestly and with full integrity is also good. It's respectable, right? So, and that's the difference between an incumbent and an startup. So जब भी आप काम करेंगे आपको ये challenges आएगी. If you try to build a startup on the basis of having सबका अपना अपना role define कर लो, तुम सिर्फ अपना अपना काम करो and all that stuff, it will always fail because things will not be seen through, right? So that's a basic difference that I have seen and I've experienced, and that's how we have been building. So there's no difference in terms of age or the kind of people that you have. It's just how you run the show. That's different.
Fantastic, Keval. Prasheel, any closing remarks on incumbents? How should they sort of try to tackle this menace of startups coming up?
So I have been involved in working for startups for probably 20 years right now. Within a company, there are startups also, and I've been involved in associating with them right from day one. With the Tatas, we had, where I first worked with a startup company called a Tata Interactive System, which was a brainchild of Mr. Ratan Tata, and then it started working there. Birla Technologies for Mr. Birla, for Times of India, Romedy Now, ETV, ET Now, Times Now. Same with HCL, same with current organization. When you work with the leaders who are running the show, the thought processes and honestly speaking, this is no rocket science. The fundamentals are very, very simple. You know it. It's not apart from making money out of a startup or out of a business is incidental. The purity of thought is, who is my customer is what they know. Who is my customer is what they know. Correct? So one is the customer definition, very clear. Other one is, what is the relationship I have with them? Customer, clarity of thought of customer, my relationship that I have with them. Problem hua? No problem. Problem hua? No problem. I will work on it and make it better the next time. Resilience, ownership. So my customer, owning the customer is the ownership that they have. Ownership, anybody remembers the second point? Huh? Relationship, okay, you were listening. The third part was? Third point I said? Problem one, no problem, yani resilience. I guess these are the three constant in any business that you, any work that you do, any business that you do, any disruption that you build up. Okay, because experience everybody has. Go and tell your mother, mother, 10:30 ho gaya, 12:30 ho gaya. The first thing she'll come and, if you're a boy, she'll start smelling you. Are you drunk? Have you smoked a cigarette? Correct, no? She has that experience. You must be really studying, but that's the first thing she'll do. Or she will not even address the problem. She'll get up next day in the morning and do it. Imagine 4 o'clock in the morning, you woke up. 4 o'clock in the morning, you get up, you're feeling very thirsty. You open the fridge and drink a glass of water. So you didn't switch on the light, but you drink a glass of water. Suddenly you don't keep the glass in the right place. The glass falls down. And it breaks. It's in the kitchen that you're drinking. What do you think you'll do? What you'll do? Sorry? Why would you clean the glass? Why would you clean the glass? Why would you clean the glass? You own that responsibility. That's ownership. ऑफिस में अगर ग्लास टूट जाएगा तो किसी को, स्कूल में अगर ग्लास टूट जाएगा तो क्या करोगे? स्टाफ को बुलाओ. घर में टूटेगा तो माँ को लगेगा अगले दिन सुबह, she'll get up to make tea. I'll clean it up, or somebody will get. Be clear on your ownership issues. And every business leader that starts, he's not complicating issues, he's using technology, finance, funding to further the goal of who's my customer, what's the ownership that I have. He owns the customer. How does he respond and how am I going to make it better? Second point, nobody remembers. Relationship. What is my relationship with him? Third point, problem hua? No problem, I'll make it better. Resilience. I can give 5 more, but most of the people, everything it comes down to you. If you want to disrupt, karo disrupt. 10 साल के बाद अगर ये स्पीच रिमेंबर करते हो तो फ़ोन करके बताओ. करो, but पहला खुद को तो देखो. The CEOs, the business heads are doing this. They have resilience, they own it, own the customer. दूसरा point नहीं याद है. Relationship. Thanks. So sorry.
Fantastic, Prasheel. Guys, you just went through a quiz. You didn't realize that. Super. So again, guys, we're talking about incumbents and wonderful bullet points from this discussion. If you sort of tagged onto some of them, first mover advantage doesn't work. Ambarish spoke about that. Google was the 21st search engine. I don't know if you guys know about that factoid. I think that's what Ambarish was referring to. Remove hype from reality. Keep on innovating, because he was giving a recommendation to the incumbents. Keval, of course, gave you the Anu Malik and Pritham phenomenon, so he can patent that piece on a lighter note. But difference between how you run big and small companies, I think it's fantastic points that Keval made, the Adobe versus Figma sort of experience, the 50 times revenue deal that happens in that world. And the KRA, I don't know if you guys understood that key result area and key performance indicators, the KRA KPIs, which big companies run. Each one of you get that particular sheet. Whereas OKR is the one which has started off, possibly Google or someone did it, objective key results. And Keval spoke about a new phenomenon of KRP that they follow, which is one person who's responsible for that and collectively adding to the objectives of the company. So different ways where companies will run, startups, incumbents, and how you tune to that. And the 4-point formula given by Prasheel, of course, like who's my customer, the relationship piece, the resilience and the ownership. All these are attributes that you need when you want to run companies. I'll add a few more on the incumbent side. How are big companies reacting to all this which is happening? While the mindset is different, and HDFC and ICICI, which was a startup 30 years back, is an incumbent now. But they are investing. They are so a couple of things, couple of tactics that I have seen that they do. they have innovation councils and all that, and I know that Keval won't like these terms because they are mindset things. But they are acquiring companies as well. Google has done a fantastic job of acquiring almost 250 companies in the last 10-15 years. And some companies are moonshot companies. Another smart thing they've done is that let these companies run. So I have acquired about 11 companies in my 25-year sort of career, and the best learning I have got, I acquired housing.com when I was in proptiger.com. So that was one of the biggest acquisitions we did. And there was cultural mismatches, etc. The best learning we got was to keep on running some of them separately. So not to sort of fool around with their mindsets, their DNAs. Because the point that Prasheel mentioned, each of these guys have a problem to solve. That I love this, and I learned this quite when I was old. Everyone has what is the problem we are solving, and then they sleep, eat, drink that problem for 24 hours a day. So you don't fool around with the problem, you let it run separately. So for incumbents, you acquire these companies. For incumbents, you keep on innovating. A great line that my chairman says that, hey, disrupt or be disrupted. So I'm an incumbent now, but we keep on thinking, how will we disrupt our own space? So while we are pretty, and I'll give you this example now, don't quote this outside, it's a bit of a business strategy, is that while we, so I'm in the space of technology-led real estate sales and marketing. While we have built a biggest company in this space in the last 4 or 5 years, we are trying to disrupt this by ourselves, by aggregating a long tail of 1 lakh channel partners or brokers who will sort of give us 80% of revenue in the next 4 or 5 years. So we are doing it ourselves. So incumbents have to think of how to disrupt the space themselves, otherwise they'll get disrupted. So pretty good stuff happening across the world. Different types of companies that you will work in. You'll have to adapt your way, as Keval mentioned, the types of working. But each one is going to survive, and the best guys will survive. There will be Kodak and there will be a Nokia phone stories which will keep on coming in case studies. But equally, there will be stories like Google or Adobe who sort of customized and sort of build the tack here. Super. Changing tack, requesting Namita and Ganapathi to speak on the next topic. And I'm sort of combining 2 areas for the sake of time, Namita and Ganapathi, on the startups. Now, this is the sexier and glamorous part, and I'm leading into these people. In what, putting yourself in the shoes of a startup founder, what are the how would you build a business model for startup? And many of these guys are going to start up yourself. And within that, what are the leadership attributes that one will have to develop? So I think if we can combine these 2 areas on startups, and we can let Namita, why don't you start off, and Ganapathi can add to that, please.
Thanks, Sunil. No, I was just reminiscing through these discussions that were coming up, and all of my points are getting revised, During my B school days, and I graduated in 2012, we also had a class on business model, as any MBA student would have, as a full-time term subject. And we had this go-to book we were referred to whenever we were building any business models from scratch. And of course, we had assignments to do. And it was Alex Osterwalder's Business Model Generation, a handbook for visionaries, game changers, and challengers. That's how it was subtitled. Now, Alex Osterwalder comes from this camp, where he believes that a business model is nothing but a set of assumptions and hypotheses. That's the school of thought he comes from. And if you really look at his book and the kind of structure and template that he's given, he has come up with a 9-point business canvas. And he takes care of every single assumption that goes into building up a business model. Why I'm telling you this, probably tomorrow you may take part in a case competition. Every B school student in their lifetime has to participate in a case competition, And then we would come up with this business model canvas where we are taking a look at all nitty-gritties, all the assumptions around your customer segment, all the assumptions around your revenue partners, all the assumptions around your income streams, everything. So it's a great start as a checklist, as a handbook to have, when you're really working on and you're getting used to building business models. Because I know, even in business settings now, it's all easy to work on decks and PPTs, and we spend hours talking about these jargons. But when you're really constructing your first business model, even if you do it as an assignment for yourself, that book really comes handy. Now, if you had to have those application to it in real lifetime, that's okay. That's done in the B school. How do you do it now? And when I look at my leaders in the healthcare space, in last 10 years, 11 years, I see that they're always, these seniors, these CEOs that I've worked with, they're always looking out for identifying the problem and wanting to solve a very specific problem. I have never seen any leaders, who are spreading themselves too thin and wanting to solve everything. And I think he made a point where there are people who are meant for solving something else. You really need to identify what is it that you want to really crack and then go behind it. So like even he said, Mr. Ambarish said that not all disruption need be very drastic and dramatical. It has to be incremental. So if we identified that our problem is that there's lack of unawareness and there's lack of shorter times, probably just go ahead and solve it. So that is how we really look at it, systematically building. And I've seen that if now there are 101 leadership traits, basically. There's a long list of leadership traits that we can always have. If I really had to pick up a few which are applicable in a startup scenario, one thing which will always top and feature at the list is perseverance. If you do not stick through it, because a day in a startup probably is not the day in an established MNC. This is how I would say. I worked in an Abbott company where we had processes set, we knew how a day looks like, but in Rivara, no 2 days are same for me. Every day I have a challenge. There is some sort of firefighting, sort of business emergency, something or the other that we are really struggling on a day-to-day basis. So perseverance, if you drop it, it's not going to happen. And I think this is a skill that probably applies to any aspect of our life. Why just startups? The second thing I always say is focus. If you do not have that laser sharp focus, once again, when we were looking for our funding for Rivara Labs, and I'll just share some insights, and when we were making our pitches to our investors, if we told them that we want to enter into this segment and this segment and this segment, they would never be interested in us. They would say that we really want you all to first crack one line, be very, very laser sharp focus there, and then we see how we spread ourselves into other areas. So that's another thing. I'm also a big believer of communication. And I think as every leader, again, this is a very generic leadership trait, applicable within the startup area or outside. As a leader, we are constantly mobilizing troops. And if you're not using the right communication, if you're not using the right words, you can never inspire your teams to do what they want to achieve for you. And the last thing is execution. I had this saying, one of my B school teacher telling me that relentless execution beats endless strategizing. And I think that has stuck with me forever. You can do a lot of fancy decks, we can do a lot of frameworks, we can do a lot of models, but at the end of it, if you're not executing it, all of this is just jargons in your decks. So it doesn't go long way. So these are some of the traits that I would always look for in all the leaders who are wanting to build a startup.
Super. Namita, Ganapathi, you want to keep on carrying?
Yeah, thank you. I have a lot of friends, whom I meet up or during my coaching engagements. So Manoj calls me, "Chal McDonald mein milte hai." So we start. What is the agenda, Manoj? "Ye kuch karna hai, entrepreneurship, startup. I have a great idea." I said, "So today party is yours." "Nahin, pehle shuru to karne the yaar." I said, "When are you starting?" He said, "The thing is, my son is in 12th now, So once he's done with his 12th, I'll start." I said, "After 2 years, daughter is coming to 12th, right?" So this is something which is a mindset in the entrepreneurship there are businessmen who start off business family, you don't have to tell them in their DNA. So it is from business to entrepreneur to startup, everything is the same. End of the day, you're selling something, you're making profits, it's a business model, people are employed and all. The whole concept of startup, started when you had model and you had to make a pitch deck, VC funding. It's not different from any businesses which were done earlier, probably. It's the same. The names have changed. Then how do people join? Many of you all want to have a startup. So it is a must to have a startup. Not necessary. There are people working in large organizations, the amount of innovation they do inside the organization and the budgets they have for that, it's as big as a startup. So I think there is a startup ecosystem within organizations. So it's not necessary that everybody, you need to have that mindset that I need to. So when I've done one was in the welding industry business. I used to trade in electrodes, and then we found the niche area of stellites. So I'm coming to something called niche. So in a mass, you may not survive. The amount of budgets, or you need to market and so on and so forth. You'll have to find your niche. So that's where in that industry we had found our niche. And this is what we were selling. So one of the things is your business acumen aside. Business acumen is a must. You need to know a little bit of finance, a little bit of marketing, coaching skills, all these rolled into one. Like, I mean, in a startup, end to end. Like, okay, as you move along, you will have specialists coming into each domain. I mean, there'll be a CEO, there'll be a CFO, and so on. But at the outset, everybody is a salesman. That is the crux. Because the story is yours. You are building the startup. And when you are approaching the client, you are telling the story. This is my story. Like, so the storytelling aspect is it's one of the most important things which excites people. Here's a guy with a vision. And that's how you recruit people also. I mean, it's not salary which gets people into a startup. Like, it's a thrill. It's the uncertainty. It's a black hole which you see. It's the white canvas which is available. They say, where is the white space? I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, somebody said, no, you copy, na? Like, Flipkart, successful copy of Amazon. How does it matter? Zomato, Swiggy, copy of someone. Airbnb, now Saffron Stays, you name it. I mean, all unicorns in India are copies, so it doesn't matter. I mean, there is a space available for everyone. I mean, you have a huge population up to a certain point of time. After that, it is about experience. It is about what you call the efficiency and so on and so forth. So while I was doing this welding business, the thing is you need to show up for work every day, irrespective of whether there's work or not. And that is the crux of a startup. All of us, in my present business, I think 1 year we didn't get any orders. So, but we were there at office at 9 o'clock. And the guy who we knew were friendly with was the chaiwala downstairs. 5 times we used to go down. Like, okay. So in the earlier welding one of the days I sat and I said, customers nahi hai. I mean, my friend was Sunil. So he said, yellow page, dekho na. Those days were yellow page. I just flipped. Under A, whatever name I picked up, I called. That guy said, merko requirement hai. I said, and this was well before our Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie, na? Like, which is that movie? Wolf from Wall Street says, these black things, these are the telephones, you got to dial them with your fingers and make a call. So much before that, we knew that only if you make a call, you're going to get your sales. And there is a market available for you. So that's a first and foremost principle when you are into, that's how you grow your business. That's how you know networking. So some of the skills which Namita touched upon, leadership skill, all these words will come about, a leadership skill, managerial skill. People talked of resilience. Coaching is a big skill. Listening is one of the skills. So you got to listen to the customer when you go and sit there. And I was talking to a team yesterday. The customer really hauled them. The voice is very good. Like, no problem is a problem. We'll solve that problem. Like, kind of. So various skills. But the biggest skill, at some point of time, you have to let go. I think that is where most of the people fail. How when you let go. When you delegate, because you are so much emotionally attached to the product you're building, so much emotionally attached to the company you're building, that you want to do everything now. You want to micromanage everything. So companies who survive today, large startups, they have very short review meetings. It's fun watching some of them work. I mean, I've been watching Rebel Foods work for a long time. It's the internet kitchen giant who's there. There's a new model which has come up, which is Mensa Brands. Just look up. Mensa brand is by Anant Narayan of Myntra. The whole model is they have picked up brands, they're going to invest in it. It's a build, operate, transfer model of and then they will value that and sell it. So that's how it is. It's based on a Thrasio model of the US. So it's amazing. I mean, you don't have to look at tech alone. Do you have an idea which is going to change something? I'm looking at nutrition as a very big space. There is huge deficiency, or if you look at the country, it's no longer about food security, it's about nutrition security. So suddenly you have, I do not know whether there are answers, you have the Nutri-Bars, the Nutri-Gummies, so on and so forth. But what about the market, which is the mass market at a certain level, schools and so on and so forth, or the tier 2 cities? Can you think of an idea? There is no tech in it. Tech will come later when you do supply chain and all those CRMs and campaigns and so on. But what about the product? So it's not always that it needs to be a tech product. It can be anything which is not tech also. So first is the idea. Second is the team. Where do you get the team from? Invariably, you will find IIM, both from IIM or the IITs, or we both were at McKinsey or the Google, and like Keval said, the catchment area is pretty the same, like pretty much the same. Like that's because there is a glue which is attached to it. So when you have a business model, there is a model, there is a team glue. The glue jitna sticky hai, the theme is going to last longer probably. I mean, like, so you need to know what is the glue. Third is what is the secret sauce? I mean, there is a USP which is different. I mean, you may copy, but you go to the customer with something which is unique. And finally, there's an engagement model. People who are into the mass scale of selling, I don't want to name some companies who are unicorns now, but they are lost touch with the customer. So being in touch with the customer, why do traditional businesses, even in broking, some of them, people know the owner's name and they do deep research and still they go to them, is because of the touch they have with them, the engagement they have with them. So that is one model where you are intensely engaged, you can add value to the customer business. So your product is not you or your product, it is a value you bring to the customer who is using your product. I mean, especially in our space of CRMs or LMS, that this is the ROI you get, or this is the value which gets to your business. So if you talk that language, if you give the vision, that this is the vision I see for you as a customer. So that's how we pitch. It makes a totally different story than saying that this is my product and this is what I am. So it can go on and on. I mean, there are various products, various domain. I mean, it's an idea, and you got to do it. You got to want to do it. That passion has to be there. And there is no problem if you fail. Get up, do it again. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Guys, I hope you're catching on to the words of wisdom from Namita and Ganapathi. Like, if Ganapathi, you had a McKinsey card, you would have charged $5,000 for this last 15 minutes. And I'm being serious, guys. So perseverance, laser sharp focus, communication, execution, Namita sort of reeled off those. So very, very sort of, like each one of them is a half an hour lecture actually. The strategy versus execution, I actually have a 1 hour sort of talk on that, by the way. So it was a pretty interesting one. And then Ganapathi, of course, just decided to go berserk with some 30 points there. But fantastic, that fundraising, small businesses have been there for the last 30, 40 years. So startup bolna shuru kar diya humne. Some they tech, not tech, find your niche, find your focus, get the business acumen right. Storytelling, like what is the tabletop and how will you inspire people to go there, the vision piece. Like these are very, very important parts, and like I hope you get it right in the next 5-10 years, not in the 5-10 minutes. Big idea is fine, but execution is key. Again, guys, execution are bar execution. So all the Larry Boss AD stuff, McKinsey versus Accenture, like there are 100 blogs there. Keep on reading that. And finally, the welding discussion, show up, hustle, call, listening, yellow pages, like it's crazy, right? So I wouldn't sort of open a yellow pages, but when you are a startup entrepreneur, you've done that. He's opened a yellow pages and called the first guy. And not tech alone, the whole sexy part about his consumer internet is sort of oversold a bit. So he's saying, hey, don't have to do tech because of the sake of doing tech. We heard this earlier as well. I think Prasheel, Ambarish or Keval made that point. You don't do it for the sake of doing it. Tech could be an enabler. Tech could be a logistics provider. Tech may not be the business itself. The glue, the secret sauce. So Google karna baad mein aa gaya, guys. These are the secret sauce pieces in a P2P lending company. The algorithm which evaluates credit is the secret sauce of such companies. So just Google all these words when you go home, and like you'll add a lot of value to yourself. Guys, from timing perspective, what I'll do, Babul, with your permission, is that about a minute each from Keval, Ambarish and Prasheel to wrap up and to talk about any points that we missed, if that's fine. You want to start off, Keval?
Yeah, sure. I think, if it's about wrapping up, I think too much for all of you to gather today. I don't want to add on any further gyan in that. Itna kar lo bahut hai. And like all these great people here mentioned, execution, right? So what you execute is very important. Today, surprisingly, Sunil just mentioned about P2P lending quite a few times, and I'm sure that most of the people here don't know about it. So it's a very interesting space, and just coincidentally, while I was just you have been mentioning it about since morning, and I just got a friend who runs a P2P company, Gautam Adukia. He runs Liquiloan. So they just raised $10 million from Cred right now. He just messaged me, and at a valuation of like a crazy 1600 crores INR, right? And 2 years back when I was starting a P2P company, nobody would believe that, okay, कि एक जना है दूसरे जने को पैसा देगा, क्यों देगा भाई, 25 लोगों की टीम है, ये क्यों होगा, right? Again, going back to Figma experience, go back, look at the website, they have it on their website, People, our team did not believe in what we were doing. They have the chats, the CEO has given the chat snapshots on their website, that this is what they said when we were starting and this is what they say about us now. So when you want to do startup, my father always told me one thing. It's in Gujarati, I'll still make an attempt. It's like, aap muya vina swarge na jawai. So basically, if you want to go to heaven, you got to die. So if you want to start a startup, it's a very fancy word. But the first work that was given to me when I went to my father's business was, ek kaam kar wahan matka hai, pani bhar ke aaja. Okay. So that was a shocker. And if you want to actually become an entrepreneur, be ready to do that. Don't be an entrepreneur if you want to hire people and give them orders and want someone to execute your strategies. That's a crap thing. Nobody else is going to execute your strategies for you. And if you're waiting for that day to happen, be happy. Join somewhere where these things can be hidden. Startup mein kuch chupta nahi hai. So don't do that. That's it from my side.
Super here. Ambarish, you want to keep on rolling?
Yes, I actually want to just take a step back and want to highlight, two things. First is, when we talk about disruptive model, startup and all that, we usually look at the outcome. We see the glamorous part and we often forget the hard work. In fact, even today when you're looking at all of us, you're actually recognizing us through the companies we represent and the designations we probably carry. But I can tell you that all of us here have worked very, very hard in our last many years to be here. So don't go by what the outcome is, look at what's gone behind it. But having said that, I also want to pose you a small challenge. I want to tell you that when you're looking at disruption and you're looking at creative solutions and you're trying to do that, I think the fundamental thing that you need to begin is by trying to figure out a problem that you can solve. Now, what happens, unfortunately, is that we often miss that. We think that, baki kisne kiya, we'll copy and all that. But I want to give you this challenge. For example, we are all in this room. Tell me 5 innovative things that you can do here right now which can make this entire experience much better and something you could probably work on. And I'll give you 3 examples. You could probably add more. Look at the cameras which is recording all of this. Half of us are wearing glasses here. One of the innovative ideas could be to attach a small camera on our glasses which records everything what you see here. Could be much more efficient, could be intelligently done. It could be transferred to a mobile phone. You could go home and you could actually then see it at your leisure. Second, all of us are speaking, you had to take notes. How about creating an app which could convert the entire text, the speech, to text, right? Which is voice to text. And not only that, it could also have a smart algo where Sunil was saying that go back and Google it. Could it also find out all relevant YouTube and white papers and neatly archive for you to go back home and read it? Could that be useful for you? Right. How difficult is it to make? Not very difficult if you put your mind into it. 3, we're all drinking waters. These are all in form of water bottles. How about creating small capsules which have vitamins in it, which we could just swallow them in? 4th, all of us are drinking water. We're also creating a lot of plastic to waste. Could you create a recyclable element where you could eat the bottle as well? Do you think this is doable? Yeah. So we had a startup last summer in COVID, who won a $75,000 startup event, who's creating packaging material using weeds, using seaweeds. So imagine your cheese slice comes with a seaweed cover, where not only do you eat your slice, but you also chew it up. Now, the reason I just wanted to poke you with all these examples is that often in our own environment, we don't try and see what we can improve. Till I had not given you these suggestions, maybe some of you might have thought, some of you might have missed, is that can you start looking around and see what are those small problems that you can solve? And it could be anywhere. For example, you go back to your own housing society. Can you find an efficient way to bring vegetables, organic vegetables in your own society, which you could run and make some money out of it? Everyone goes out and orders, but can you kind of create some framework around it? So what I want you to do is to, whenever you're in any environment, whether it's here in your classroom, you're traveling, you're in your home, think of small problems that you can solve. That probably will give you a lot of ideas about your startups, about things that you can do, and things where you can probably innovate. A lot of big things happen from very small steps, and these are the small steps that you should do. If you do it, it'll probably help you when you go and start working in a company, or if you want to become an entrepreneur, because you then start observing and you start seeing how you can apply them to create better solutions for all of us.
Fantastic, Ambarish. Super laced with wisdom. Prasheel, you want to have the last word literally?
Sir, I started that in my society. Huh? My maintenance is being paid by the vegetables that come to the society.
Okay. Interesting.
No, honestly, guys, okay. Let me tell you a story. Last month, one king, two princes, very, very troublesome, did not want to study. Big palace, the king gets lots of tutors to teach them. Princes का काम था tutors को भगा देना. King was worried, how is my kingdom going to survive going further? He searches for a tutor, he gets a tutor. The tutor says, your kids are not going to stay in the palace. They are going to stay in my Gurukul. Excellent. Fundamentally, king ko bola, jab tak, till the time I don't let them go, if they prove me wrong, then only you can take your princes back. Till the time they don't prove me wrong, they stay with me. Okay? Deal set ho gaya. Now the objective of the princes was, I'm leaving the palace, going and staying in the Gurukul. Hey Bhagwan, ye kya hai? Wahan kaam karna padta hai. Good, they are working over there. You prove me wrong is what the Guru says. Good. So the main focus has always been to prove the Guru wrong. 6 महीना हो गया, 8 महीना हो गया, 1 साल हो गया. The princes don't call the king. They're still there. So the king was worried. Is he dead? Are these dead? Have they run away? What happened? So they go, they meet, father, sons meet, hug each other, do whatever they have to do. Fantastic. Then that night the princes think about an idea. I know how to prove the king wrong. Good, brilliant idea, disruptive idea. What was the disruption in this? Every morning 4 o'clock the Guru sits and does his dhyan under a tree, light shining behind. Fantastic. What the princes do is they carry a pigeon in their hand, one hand on the wings, other hand on the neck. Now they have to prove the Guru wrong. The Guru is sitting over there doing his dhyan, he doesn't open his eyes. They go and ask the Guru, please tell us, what do we have in our hand? The Guru comes and says, without opening his eyes, you have a pigeon. Second question, is the pigeon dead or alive? Look at the algo, very clear. If he says, it is dead. Then they remove the hand from the neck and from the wing, and the pigeon flies. Guru is wrong. If he says he's alive, they just turn the neck and he's dead. So they go and ask him, is he dead or alive? Shanti, no answer. Again they ask the same question, is he dead or alive? The only answer he gives, it's there in your hands. Your disruptive idea and your career and your thought process is in your hands. Take the fundas from us, but it's like the pigeon that we have, but it's in your hands. What you make out of it is your responsibility. We are signing an NDA and getting out of here, right? Cheers.
Super, Prasheel. Pretty intense stuff, guys. It was almost like a Schrodinger's cat sort of equation, is it? Dead or alive, is it? But well done, Prasheel. I was looking for the suspense there. Great rounding up remarks from all the three gentlemen. I hope you guys got the bullet points there. Last 30 seconds from my side. Guys, when I passed out of my MBA in 1995, which was before you were born, all of you, there was no internet. So most of our case studies used to be going to the library, finding out stuff, and our job, 80% of the job was finding data and information. You guys are sort of blessed, and I had spoken about this in the convocation as well when I called you Midnight's Children in the post-pandemic sort of era, is that you have been born in that disruptive 25 years, the last 25 years, which is post-internet, post-smartphone, etc. So please use that. So we use the 1991 economic liberalization, post which India business sort of really took off. So that's where my batch came in, and we sort of did our MBA, and we all use that. We have done pretty well, most of us. But for you guys, like Prasheel says, the sky's the limit. It's all up to you. There are too many opportunities, unfortunately, floating around. You have to focus, niche, wonderful words you sort of heard. Choose a problem, solve that, and I think no one's going to stop you from ruling the waves here. So all the very best, guys. Babul, I don't know if there's time for a Q&A or if there's questions, because there's too many topics already. Is it? Okay, so if there are one or two sharp questions, we can take it, because I think some of us have to run as well. Is that right, Keval? Yeah, he's got a sort of a cutoff.
Okay. Thank you so much, sirs and ma'am, for that wonderful discussion. It was definitely very eye-opening. I need to be more observant of my surroundings now. We have Vinayak Basu, who is my mate, and he'll be taking over the Q&A session. We have some pre-defined questions for you to make the work a little easier. So, Vinayak.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Pradnya. Respected panelists, I do have some questions for you. So our first question is by Dhruv Mehta. How to maintain the product service chain perfectly while cooperating within different departments?
Say that again, how to maintain the?
How to maintain the product service chain perfectly while cooperating within different departments?
Anyone want to go?
Yeah, generally you have a lot of processes in the organization which has to be well laid out. You have a lot of tools like task managers and all, where people collaborate. I mean, you're talking of a cross-functional team, right? There's somebody from marketing, somebody from maybe manufacturing or quality, and how do they collaborate? Like, okay. So there is an overarching goal that this is the product, this is the final quality, and or if it is service, this is the final service. There are matrices defined for each of those departments, and how they move on. And if they are operating parallelly and in sync, I mean, it's through various reviews or mechanisms by which we do it. I mean, it has been happening in traditional companies where we go and sit and do it. Now it is through a lot of softwares are available, which helps you red flag anything which is not happening, or the TATs are defined. Everything is defined in that. So it's quite possible to bring in that efficiency which you do.
Thank you very much. Our second question is by Amolak Singh Virdi. Has cloud-based kitchen put a dent in the restaurant business? And if yes, what steps can the hoteliers take to compete with the cloud kitchen as they offer a similar menu at our doorsteps at a relatively lower cost?
You ran a cloud kitchen business, or you invested in one?
I mean, you have Rebel Foods, which is a benchmark today in terms of cloud kitchen, which is Owen Story, Beirut Biryani, and so many other brands. When you read their, so I've been following them up, I've been meeting them. Amazing. But you see, there is always a market. It's the Kirana versus the Amazon and Walmart that happened. So there is a hyper-local which has happened in even in those segments. It is not going to replace the hotels which you have, because you go to a particular hotel for a particular menu. Is the cloud kitchen going to deliver all of that particular taste? I don't think so. Like, I mean, you have your favorite restaurant which has that signature menu, 3 of them. It's not possible by cloud. So it's going to coexist. So for want of convenience, how many brands can Rebel Foods have? No, I don't think so. Beyond a certain point of time, it will be like, because you have to grow a brand, you have to have scale, you have to have so many outlets. There are some numbers which are very important for a brand to reach a particular stage. So I don't think it's a threat. Yeah.
And it's a bit of evolution as well. The cloud kitchen of today, 10% of them may become full-service restaurants, and possibly that's the way that they will succeed. Is it?
If I may
That's
just
what the
say-
furniture business did.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, since we hold few specialty restaurants and everything in our portfolio, that's a subject. This is not new. Whatever cloud kitchens are doing, that's not new. That has been happening in FMCG way before any of us were born here, and we do have some really old people, so that's fine. You know how.
Very, very careful now what you're saying.
No, I'm not looking on this side. No, but I mean, on the lighter note, you know, this is just the concept of house of brands, right? They will thrive. There will be a lot of people that will be there, but not all of them will see the end of the tunnel, right? That's for sure. But if you look at it, you talk about Nestle. They have more than 90% market share in almost 6 or 7 categories, right? And you talk about HUL, you name, you will have monopolistic house of brands in apparels, you have them in FMCG, all these places. So I don't see that, be it automobiles, right? You have Das Auto, you have so many, any industry once beyond a point, a house of brand makes a lot of sense. And that gives you a very, very unfair advantage as well. So, you know, like today, if Nestle comes up with a separate category of nutrients, what he just mentioned, they already have such a large leap to a startup in terms of distribution, especially more so in the kinds of businesses which are very highly dependent on logistics and quality checks. You know, house of brands can maintain that standard and repeat it continuously beyond. And you know, also if there's a moment to say scale. Wow Momos, we invested in our private equity pretty early in the stage. The moment you have a lot of funds backing you, if you want to scale it from 100 outlet to 300 outlet, it hardly takes 3 months, right? McDonald's is an example, right? So McDonald's is the world's largest cloud kitchen. If you come to think of it, they beat you not at the taste, they beat you at their logistics, right? I don't know how they maintain that, but the average age of the bread is probably 10 times what a fresh bread could sustain. So that's their USP, right?
Thank you very much. Our next question is by Alok Raj Soni, and this question is for Mr. Sunil Mishra. So, sir, as you have worked in diverse corporate fields for a really good period, and then successfully became an promoter for quite some great startups, resulting in a disruption in traditional setup of the business, what are your core skills and belief that led you to work from the front foot?
First of all, not all of that is true, the way you described it. But skills wise, I'm not going to go repeat again. Yeah. I think the summary that everyone did. No, I won't summarize the summary either. Like that will be sort of doing too much work for my role either. But clearly all the stuff here, and for me, uh, the hustle part, the perseverance. So at some point in time, you realize you're not the brightest guy in the room. So, but you can be the hardest working guy. No one can stop you from doing that. Is it? So hustle, be there, be the 9 a.m. guy or a 6 a.m. guy, if not a 5 a.m. Robin Sharma guy. Is it? So those things, no one can take it away from you. And there are 100 people who can follow the same diligence. Is it? There'll be 1 or 2 Elon Musks who may come out of this. Is it? But there'll be 100 smart guys who will build businesses. If you're hardworking, if you hustle, if you show up. So those are stuff that I have followed personally.
Thank you very much. So our next question is by Meghna Singh. Does a company have experts or strategists to prevent disruption in business models? And if yes, is there a structured way to deal with it?
I'll take that. This is exact. So I'll paraphrase what Keval had mentioned. Actually, it's tough to do that if it's a mindset sort of thing. Is it? There are innovation councils. So all the big data companies have started now innovation councils. Is it? I think the jury is out whether they really succeed or not, because the mindset is different, as he pointed out. The ownership, the startup may focus of a problem, etc. are different. But as I keep on saying, the jury is out. Google has got a different way to do this by acquisition. Amazon is doing it pretty smartly. So the chief innovation officer, I'm a chief strategy officer, by the way, so I'm hitting where it hurts most. But finally, there has to be one vision, one niche, one focus, which everyone should go for with maniacal obsessiveness. So that's the sort of a rough secret if you want to really crack that in.
Thank you very much for your time. These were all the questions.
Brilliant, great. Babu? Yeah. Thanks, guys.
We can allow one question coming in from the crowd if there is anyone here. One more question. Somebody called Kalpesh Sharma, is it? Oh, there. Huh.
He has given the question.
What's his question? Read.
Come ahead, come ahead.
Question. Which one?
WhatsApp. You have 4 questions. This is a whole question.
So his question, as it reads, says how business disruption is affecting the retail market and small businesses. That's your question?
Anyone want to take it?
Is disruption affecting logistics, and what will be the disruption in supply chain? If disruption positive for our economy. Sit down, we still have another 10 minutes. Anyone who wants to take.
Retail obviously is the biggest glaring example, right? The e-commerce, Amazon disrupted Barnes and Nobles 25 years back, and that relentless thing of Sears filing bankruptcy or any brick and mortar retail chain going bankrupt has been sort of the story. So this disruption happened big time, and it's a combination of logistics, choosing what to sell, possibly building a brand now as well. So you go to Amazon if you want anything right now instead of, or Flipkart, Amazon or Flipkart. So I think there's a glaring example of retail being disrupted. At the same time, there are niche players building brands. So right from Indian brands like Anita Dongre's to H&M, etc. They are still going to survive. They have different experience, the product is different. The product is experience possibly. Go and stand in that queue and have fun and pick up the last sort of a dress when your husband is standing in the queue. Those kicks you won't get in Amazon. So I think it's a mixed bag, but clearly the die was cast in sort of favor of online. And having said that, online is still whatever 4, 5, 6% of total sort of retail right now, or 10%. I don't know those numbers. It keeps on changing. But 10 will become 20. Walmart is the second biggest online company in or retailer in the USA. I don't know if you guys know that. But companies are moving online. So disruption has happened galore, and it will keep on happening possibly. Guys.
Maybe it's to do with collaboration. I mean, if you look at hyperlocal, I mean, if you're talking of the local kirana within the radius of where you want to do the delivery, I mean, these big, online companies, they are collaborating. The point of sale equipment or device which is there, maybe Reliance will put a device over there, and track what is happening. And you can control through online, you can control through these Kirana stores also. So that means it's a coexistence, that's what I'm saying. So you cannot do away with them, it's going to coexist.
Great, thank you so much, the panel here. I think we had a fantastic session here. I thought of summarizing as to what the takeaways are. I think it's a book full now, you know, it's too much that we've got. All the students, I'm sure you have taken a note, and you guys have to write, summarize, synopsisized, and send it on a mail, because this is your project as well. And not to forget, you'll have marks on that. Yeah? So, pardon? Very serious. So, pardon? No, I think 99% is here. But live is also there. The camera is also there. So records are there. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please just stand up. We have to giving a piece of memento to all the panelists. Please come.
Students, please, group photo. Yes, yes. If the panelists could sit, the students will go and stand behind them, and we can have a commemorative photo for the day. हाँ जी